Great Norwich Growth Board. I'm about to hand over to Councillor Mike Stonard to be the new chair, and I'm the outgoing chair from last year. I just wanted to thank the team for all their support this year. There've been a lot of exciting projects and openings that I've been able to go to, which I've really enjoyed. It's been great to see the green infrastructure project and strategy come together, and I think it's another great example of how councils can work together to produce things that are good for their area in collaboration that benefit all of us. So thank you very much. And with that, I will hand over to Mike.
Thank you, Sue, and thank you very much for your chairmanship over the last year, which we've very much appreciated. I echo your comments. Welcome to Norwich City Hall. This is the 1930s building, which means that in the summer it's very warm, and in the winter it's very warm or cold. You have either very hot or very cold, and in the summer it's generally just hot when the sun's out. So apologies for that, and apologies. We're going to get some people down to open these doors because it is particularly hot today. So hopefully they'll be here in a minute. There is no fire alarm test scheduled for this afternoon, so if the alarm goes off, it is a fire. We need to leave via these doors, go down the main staircase, out the main entrance, and the muster point is on St. Peter's Street outside. So moving on, we have apologies from Daniel Elmer from South Norfolk. Phil, I think you have a comment to make about that, or a proposal.
Thank you. Yes, Daniel Elmer offers his apologies. His sub also offers his apologies, and so through exceptional circumstances, with the agreement of the other group leaders, we had another sub lined up today, but she's woken up with an ear infection this morning. So
is there anybody left in South Norfolk?
So we yeah. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to Kay to represent South Norfolk. No, so because we need unanimous decisions, then whilst it's not actually my place to propose, it may be suggested that we can do it in writing after this email, which I think we can do. So proceeding with the agenda, but I think Daniel Elmer, as leader, is lined up to, having seen the papers, receive a written request for his approval in due course.
Are we happy with that? Yes, Sue? Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Agreed, we will do that. So moving on, are there any declarations of interest, please? Item 3. No. Minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of March. For those of us who were there, can we accept these, please, as a correct record? Thank you. And so now moving on to item 5. This is a project showcase GP51 Access for All. Paul Thorogood. Hi, Paul. Welcome. The microphones, you.
Perfect, thank you. Right, good afternoon. My name's Paul Thorogood, Project Officer for the Environment Service at Norfolk County Council. And I've been asked to come here to talk to you about GP51, Green Infrastructure Access for All project, and in particular the one on Cossey Lane at Drayton and the Marriott's Way. Now, what was the GI Access for All project? No, excuse me. It was a 5-year programme funded by SIL from 2019 to 2024. We had £30,000 maximum available each year. This is for smaller scale accessibility improvements across various projects and areas within the Greater Norwich area. This helped a wider range of users to access green space in the Greater Norwich area. And of course, it was interrupted by COVID in 2020, which put a slight hiatus on our projects. just move on to the next slide. Aha, yeah. Right. What were the improvements funded by the GI Access Road project? In 2021, on the Wayman's Way, there was a Rockland St Mary resurfacing. I'll come to that one in a bit slight more detail a bit later. And in 2024, we had the Cossey Lane curve at Drayton on the Marriotts Way. And again in 2024, we had on the Wayman's Way various infrastructure improvements and also signage installations on 4 circular walks. And last but no means least, 2024, again on the Marriotts Way, there was improvements on the Brick Kiln Lane steps. Now, what are the Marriotts Way and Wayman's Way? These are 2 of the higher profile long distance promoted Norfolk trails. Marriotts Way is 26 miles long, footpath, bridleway and cycle route. And this follows the routes of 2 disused railway lines running between the historic market town of Elsham and the medieval city of Norwich. The Wayman's Way is 37.5 miles. It's a walk, there's no cycle along there, and it's between Norwich and Great Yarmouth, largely following the River Yare. And you can see there's a nice map there that gives an indication of where the Norfolk trails are throughout the county. Okay, Marriotts Way at Drayton. This was the site of the Norwich to Ayleston Railway, and you can see how it's changed. That's the same point from the late 1960s to 1973, and more recently, November 2023. You see how it's gone from active rail line to disused rail line, and finally, a busy commuter and leisure route into Norwich and out of Norwich. Okay, so where and why? Cossey Lane, Drayton, and that is situated with 2 other areas of SIL-funded improvements which were constructed in 2021. These were at the Drayton ramp and also the Cossey to Tavern resurfacing. Now, at the time, work wasn't possible at Cossey Lane due to a number of reasons. The main reason being is it wasn't within the scope and budget at the time, so you had to wait a short while. And that's just often important for us because budgets are usually very tight in our work. Okay, where and why? This is the junction between the Marriotts Way and the Cossey Lane at Drayton. Marriotts Way is one of our busiest trails in Norfolk, if not the busiest. And it's an important off-road commuter and leisure route to the northwest of Norwich. From 2018 to 2019, this is a 12-month period. This is at Norwich Barn Road. We recorded 312, 189 users over that 12-month period, and that was the highest in Norfolk trails for that period. So it's an extremely busy stretch of trail. Now, these are the other nearby SIL-funded schemes. This is the one at, on the Marriotts Way at Drayton Ramp. And again, you can see how there's been an evolution in what was there. There was an active rail line going underneath a bridge, which was filled in, creating quite a steep gradient, a muddy slope, if you will. So there's been various improvements needed to bring that to a standard where all users can enjoy that safely. You see in April 2023, it's a lot safer and easier to cycle up now, and people of all abilities can hopefully get up that slope. The gradient isn't as steep as it used to be, and the surface is all over the surface now. And this is looking north at the same spot. You see in 2020, the path is eroding away. Even in summer, it was quite uncomfortable to use. And after the improvements, much more pleasant, and also within a wildflower setting, and some fruit trees have been planted there as well. Okay, and this is the resurfacing of the Marriotts Way from Gunton Lane to Cossey. This is 3.4 kilometres. This happened at roughly the same time. So you can see in spring 2021, the path is getting narrower, the vegetation is encroaching, the surface is degrading, but post resurfacing, you can see there's a wider, more level, all-weather surface. And again, same sort of thing in a different spot. The actual path is getting encroached upon and more narrow. It's difficult for people to pass side by side safely, but with improvements, a lot more people can pass now and without coming into conflict with one another, and hopefully be a bit drier at the end of their travels. Okay, so access for all. Why improve the Cossey curve? You can see again Marriotts Way, but this is where it meets Cossey Lane, and there's a bit of a pinch point here in terms of the way people come off what was a railway embankment going down to road level, there was a few problems here. You can see that the path is degrading, it's being waterlogged, the vegetation again is encroaching, and the leaves are building up. It's narrow, wet, and overgrown. This is in autumn 2023. And again, you can see that there's enormous amount of puddling. If you want to cycle through there, walk through there, there's all sorts of issues. It's unpleasant for walkers and cyclists. There's a high risk of collision between the users due to poor visibility and a dangerous exit onto the road for cyclists using what became a desire line. So they were going straight down the slope and onto the road at some speed. So that was posing a risk to cyclists and motorists. That's an example of the sort of layout plan that we have to draw up in order to facilitate the construction works. I won't dwell on that too long because it takes some decoding. Okay, this is one of the outputs. This is resurfacing to widen the path to 3 meters and construct a new top layer of breeding gravel over granite subbase. Now you can see we had to scrape back some of the original path to achieve a level, wider surface. Lay the granite subbase, that's the grey material being laid down there, and breeding gravel, which is a golden colour. It's spread over the top. It requires some watering to help the material within the gravel coagulate and form like a semi-bound surface. So you can see already the curve is looking at less cramped, it's more open, and it's a lot easier to see people as you walk or cycle around that curve. Okay, again, we moved the earth bank, which was created from the closure of a car park that was there once. And that was moved in, and the visibility is improved, and there's a lot more width for people to pass one another. Okay, and what was a muddy slope with water, and people weren't too sure which route to take, either to go up around the curve or to walk up. So we reduced that ambiguity, and now walkers are encouraged to go straight up the steps if they can. And you can see that it's a lot more safe to walk up there now. Okay, and the curve, which was overgrown and narrow and dark and gloomy, and when cycling around, they didn't really know who you're going to come to meet at any one point. Okay, you can see again, cyclists attempt to negotiate the curve, and after the improvements, after still access to all improvements, you can cycle around there quite safely now. And even if you can't see the person coming around the corner, there's enough width for you to be able to pass one another safely. And this is the section that leads up to the bridge. This is what we saw earlier in the older photographs. You can see it's much wider, more level, and should be all-weather surface. That should be safe throughout the seasons. Okay. Again, you can see the steps completed there. Double handrails to both sides. And hopefully the cyclists have not been thrown straight onto the road. They've had a chance to pause, to look, and to go onto the road more safely. Again, we did remove a considerable amount of vegetation within that curve area, but we've planted 3 fruit trees there, 2 apples and 1 cherry, and also grass seeding, and we should get some of the natural vegetation coming back to encroach there, and we will be keeping that to a sensible level to help maintain the visibility. What usually happens when we resurface on railway bridges going over rivers is we find Second World War heritage features. And again, this is what we found here. These are anti-tank trap sockets, usually concrete foundations left when the railway's been taken away. And we recorded those and sent the details through to our heritage record. And that's one of the reasons why they're there. That's the intent, is to try and stop a German invasion by tanks by slowing the tank down, if not stopping it completely, and presumably leaving it open to attack. Okay, so this is a summary of costs for the Cossey curve, GP51. I can see the resurfacing was about £35,000. Some tree work and vegetation cutting to open the area up to facilitate construction work was £2,630, and our officer time was £8,059. Total spend was £45,514. Yeah, these are the other access for all improvements within Norfolk within those 5 years. And this is Rockland St Mary, and this is the resurfacing there. on the Wayman's Way. This is 900 metres of resurfacing to reinstate the full width and to allow the passing places to be used once again. The contractor was Mackhouse Landfill Solutions. Now, the total cost of the 900 metre resurfacing was £31,000, 250 pence, £250, sorry. Construction was from 13th of September 2021 to the 8th of October 2021. Now you can see the condition of the path before the work. It was narrow, again, vegetation, nature picking back what it once had, encroaching onto the path, making life difficult for users walking along there. And with some resurfacing, the width was restored. It's more level, it's more accessible. There's more passing places and the gates are more accessible. Those are two-way pedestrian gates there. Okay, and the other access wall funding improvement scheme was at the Marriott's Way brick kiln steps at Reetham. Now this was a complete replacement of the failed stair set there. You can see that it's degraded, it's rotted away. The only thing that's really going for it is the handrail isn't too bad at that point. But we replaced the complete stair set. It's wider, there's more consistent steps. There's no variation in step height. So if you're going up there, if you have any issues with mobility, then the step height is predictable. You can go up there and presumably come down without too much difficulty. Double handrail on both sides to help people work their way up and work their way down. Total cost of that, and again, very good value for money, £2,425. Now, these are more accessible funding awards. A total of £62,000 was left over, made available to us in 2023-24. And the final one for that period was the signage and infrastructure improvements on 4 circular walks on the Wayman's Way. We can see the circular walk at Loddon, Inglos, 4 miles, Loddon, Warren Hills, which is 3.5 miles, Rockland St Mary, which is 6.5 miles, and Claxon, which is 5 miles. You can see one of the improvements there was to get rid of the old, far less accessible kissing gates. Well, they're less accessible and also look like they're going to harm someone at some point. That's leaning over quite considerably. And that's a more accessible replacement. And we had 39 new finger posts to help people find their way along the footpaths without getting lost or having to refer to maps every 5 minutes or Google Maps. 8 waymarker posts, 3 new kissing gates, 2 footbridges were replaced and 2 benches installed in addition to what's already there. And the total cost of those improvements was £8,984, 6 pence. Okay. Now, these are just to summarise, these are the outcomes of the Access Wall funded projects in 2024. At Marriott's Way Cossey Curve, we had enhances connectivity from Drayton to Norwich, that's for leisure and commuting. An all-weather route and a level surface was created. A wider 3-metre trail allows users to pass each other safely, and a new stair set allowed safer access for walkers, but also increased visibility around that curved section, increased the safety for all users. There was a very high chance of a collision happening at some point, and somebody would have been injured. On the Marriott's Way, at the brick kiln steps, again that's further up the Marriott's Way towards Reetham. More accessible stair set. This is a less well-known part of the Marriott's Way, but still important, still allowing local access. People who want to use the Marriott's Way. And again, on the Wayman's Way, signage and infrastructure improved on those 4 Wayman's Way circular walks. Okay, now this is other SIL, this is not Access Wall funded projects, but still funded by SIL. To summarise, Marriott's Way, we have the Cossey resurfaces, 3.4 kilometres resurfaced, a wider all-weather surface for commuter and leisure users. And at the Marriott's Way on the Drayton ramp, we had a degraded steep slope replaced with a more accessible asphalt surface with a wildflower and fruit tree setting. And on the Wayman's Way at Rockland St Mary, a wider, more durable surface on a main trail and a circular walk. Okay, well, thank you for your attention. Are there any questions, please?
Yes, just like to say, I should have declared an interest really. The Marriott's Way, the sections that you were showing, is one of my favourite places for a cycle ride on a sunny afternoon. But also the work you've done, I've seen firsthand, has made a tremendous difference in terms of make it easier to navigate and making it safer as well. So you've got one person here really appreciates what you've done anyway. And it's great to see all this infrastructure being opened up and the footpaths being opened up and being made more easily accessible for people. It's wonderful. So, Kay.
Yes, I was going to say, I think I ought to declare an interest as well, because all of the Wherryman's Way work has been done in my division, my county division, Rockland, St Mary, and around there is part of my county division. And I know that local people are very grateful for that, because we were sort of losing banks into the river. You had the picture of the map, which looks like a bit like the London Underground earlier.
Yes.
And if you look at Wherryman's Way, it's a pink bit, and it has a loop that goes Loddon Chedgrave. We've had issues down there with the Wherryman's Way because the traditional footpath runs alongside the Hardley flood, and it's actually got river on both sides effectively. So if you look at the sort of pink loopy bit, sort of bottom right, where it says Chedgrave Loddon, yeah. We've been out and walked that, and there is no easy way to reinstate that footpath because it's been undermined by the river. The river's very fast flowing there. It's a river Chet. But we were looking at an alternative footpath that might go along some farmers' land in some fields so that people don't have to walk on the road, because at the moment they go there to walk Wherryman's Way and they end up on the road. It's actually nowhere near as pleasant as it used to be. And I didn't know whether we'd made any progress then, because I know the local parish there are quite anxious that we make progress and get walkers off the main road if possible.
Yes, there's some progress have been made, but again, I think with that there were legal aspects to be looked into, which are slightly outside of our kind of remit and experience. So we're waiting upon some legal advice to help us move that forward. Yes, you're quite right. The alternative won't be as nice as the Riverside Walk, but it will be a lot safer than walking on this 60-mile-an-hour road. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything I can do to help is what I need to know, because if I can help to move it along, I will. I've got the local parish council championing at the bit, and I've told them to just hold off because we don't want to upset local landowners if we're in negotiations, and we don't want them sticking the price up if they think that the county council's got bottomless pit of money, which of course we don't have. So if there's anything I can do or help to coordinate, then please let me know.
That's a very kind offer. Thank you. Yes, we'd love to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sue.
I really only can reiterate all the things that you've already said. I think it's a fantastic thing for Norfolk as a whole, being able to get across like that, and it, you know, it's biodiversity, all the stuff that it's doing, just fantastic. So great, glad to be part of it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. Actually, seeing these areas being opened up more to the public is really, really good news. All the footpaths as well. And I was amazed that you managed to put those steps in for under, was it £2,500?
Yes.
You must tell me who you got to do that.
I'll tell you later. Yes, I think it did come in a bit cheaper than he should have quoted, really. But he wanted the work. He wanted to re-establish a relationship with ourselves, so we were glad to take the savings.
A lost leader.
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. That's been really interesting.
Thank you.
Or just wanted to say one other thing. I noticed in the papers, is there further work planned on Helston Station? I think I saw that in there. That's a little hidden gem, isn't it?
Not that I'm aware of. I was involved in the work to restore the platform there,
and then to put in the new cycleway, the sort of and the crossing. But that was transport from Norwich. I think that was.
Right, yes. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we currently have a project on the Helston Station GI route. That's progressing. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I knew I'd seen something in the papers about it. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on then to the Greater Norwich Infrastructure Plan, page 11. This is you taking the lead, Phil.
I take the lead very briefly and then very quickly hand over to Grace. I simply say that, as you are well familiar with this process, this is effectively the starting line for the bid making process and the project planning process. It is a comprehensive document that I'm not sure many people read, chronologically, but it is a really useful document to dip into. I think it's unique in the country, is award-winning because of the nature of how comprehensive and holistic it is. It does look at the infrastructure that supports growth, but also our aspirations for this area over and above that as well. Clearly, the 4 areas that we focus on as a group are transport, education, green infrastructure and community facilities. But this does really look at that holistic approach to what else do we need. And at that point, I will hand over to Grace.
Thank you. Just share my slides. So yes, most people who come here get to present a nice project to you. I get to present a plan to you. So I'm hoping it will be something really still interesting for you to hear. So Phil has already said this is a comprehensive plan. Oh, it's not showing, is it? It's showing on our screen. It's coming, I think. Sorry.
Oh, right.
It's on, yeah, there's a thing. So it's a comprehensive plan. In fact, it's over 200 pages because you consider there's a long pipeline of projects at the bottom. We know it is a lot, and we know, as Phil said, few people actually read it in its entirety. And in fact, most of the people, probably it's only the people in this room that do, but we know that it is an incredibly important document. And I wanted to be able to give you the opportunity we're bringing it to you today, and it's been 10 years since we've been bringing the GNIP to the GNGB. So we want to actually just sort of confirm, what the plan is, how, and explain how it's used and why it matters, why particularly to Greater Norwich. Sorry, there we go. So the high level sort of explanation as to regards to what the plan is that it is high level, it's strategic, it is a big overview document trying to give you a snapshot of the work for delivering infrastructure across the whole piece. So it's not just about the 4 thematic groups that we fund through the Infrastructure Investment Fund. It is meant to include a broad range to show everything that's out there, and it's just a snapshot of what's happening right now. And we do this annually to try and help create a more sort of coordinated approach to planning and delivery as a partnership. So what is it? As I say, it's an annual partnership plan. We've been publishing it since 2014, so it's just over 2 years, 10 years old. But it takes a lot of people to bring this plan to you. In fact, we get more and more each year as we publish. More and more people understand it and want to be involved in it, and we get more and more sort of other organisations included. As I say, over 50 officers from across the authorities actually provided information. We want to say thank you, because this report's only as good as the information that's provided to us. So we really, really appreciate it. Why do we publish it? We mainly publish it because it's an evidence base, and that's why it sort of falls to people don't remember the GNIP so much because there isn't money connected to it, but it is incredibly important for a number of reasons, and it actually sort of creates that foundation of information that we can rely upon, which has helped in decision making later on. Who is it for? We do know that we have a variety of different audiences, a variety of different users. Obviously, we do have the general public, and we make a big effort to make sure that it is able to be understood by people who don't work in public sector or don't work in the infrastructure industry. It's an incredibly complex area of work, but there are, people in the general public, they do want to know how are the authorities planning for GP surgeries. They're a popular one. How are they planning for utilities? How are they planning for schools? The actual plan provides just a snapshot summary of all that information, explained to them, hopefully in layman's terms, and then actually is able to signpost people to more information as and what, depending on what they're searching. We know also that developers and members both also we group those two together because they tend to approach the plan from a more knowledgeable sort of stance. People are looking for a particular geographical area or for a particular type of infrastructure, and they come and self-serve from the plan. They don't tend to read the whole document. They gain the information that they're searching for. And we know that government bodies actually find it very interesting because we often point to it when we ask questions, when I have regular freedom of information requests, which we can just say, here's the information you're asking for. And we know that when it comes to monitoring the adopted plan, the GNIP does actually serve part of that process too, because the infrastructure themes that are adopted and have been consulted to develop the Greater Norwich Local Plan are repeated in the GNIP every year. And, the information moves on very quickly. So this is the annual update. We check back in with all the organisations and provide an update. So that information is kept current and we can rely upon it. And the result, and obviously finally, Greater Norwich, we very much use this document. We don't produce it just for ourselves, so, but it does bring together the priorities which are very important for us to then reference against, refer to, in order to make decisions later on. And the result of all of that, all those, bringing this publication forward, is that we actually end up with a unique, because it is unique, it continues to be unique. There are no other authorities doing this across boundaries, and for that reason it's incredibly respected. The fact that we sit together and bring this report to you every year, the fact that we actually manage to publish it is to be applauded, because others are failing to do the same. Others have tried and failed, and we know this because we are told this by government, by planning advisory service, who are always pointing to Greater Norwich to say, look, they can do it, why can't you? And my answer to that is it is very hard work, but we still do it, so we get there. So I want to just highlight, just to make sure there isn't any confusion. I know that officers particularly get confused, because we do, as a team, we bring 2 different infrastructure plans to the Greater Norwich Growth Board every year, but they serve different purposes. This one, as I say, the GNIP is an overarching plan looking at all infrastructure to support growth. So it includes everything. It does include information about community infrastructure levy, but that's only a very small part of it. It actually, in its purpose, it demonstrates that we get a small amount of SIL, but we need all of this to actually deliver. And it's such a big task for us to actually take on in order to try and deliver what is required. The 5-year plan, that is quite different. That is a SIL-only document, and that's related to the decision making for allocating funding, which comes to you later in the year. So both those plans, and just sort of showing you this in our cycle, we have a very well rehearsed cycle and a decision making process set for Greater Norwich. We start the new year as we are now. We've got a new chair come to of the GNGB, and the first meeting of each year we start with the GNIP. Subject that to that being agreed, which we hope it will be today, we will then open the call for projects, which is an internal call. So we send invites to all the officers across the 4 partners and invite applications to the fund for SIL funding. We as a team then assess project applications over the summer, and the short list of projects are then fed into the 5-year plan, which then goes on to the decision making. Once the decision making happens, we start it all again with the GNIP. So you can sort of see how there is a method in what potentially might seem a bit sort of mad sometimes. I've mentioned the Infrastructure Investment Fund, the SIL fund, a number of times, but I don't want to just assume that everybody here or anyone listening is aware, what that is. So I'm just going to give you a quick introduction to the fund. We have 3 district planning authorities across the Greater Norwich area, and each of them are responsible for managing their SIL income. They receive the income and they take a deduction for administration. 15 or 25% is then reinvested back into the local area where the money came from. For the case of South Norfolk and Broadland, it actually is passed straight onto the parish and town councils for them to make the decisions about where it's spent. And the remaining amount, which is about 70% of the income, is then transferred to county, and because county act as the accountable body for Greater Norwich, and that fund, which is called the Infrastructure Investment Fund, is then managed by myself and my team, and we support the Greater Norwich board in order to help them plan and deliver infrastructure to support planned growth. But the way the GNIP actually fits into that, it should move on. It hasn't moved on just yet, so I've got another slide in front of me, but not in front of you yet. So at the basically, there's hopefully it will catch up. Basically, I've got I just want to sort of talk you through the different stages of decision making. I'm going to go back and then try again and see whether it will come. Okay, I'm going to keep talking. So Greater, all the partners use the GNIP to help them, shape their own pipelines. You all have different priorities, but the information within the GNIP does actually help you to bring those together. Each partner then gets to the point where you need to actually apply for funding, and you can use the information that's included within the GNIP to actually build your business case, because it's all there in one neat package for you to sort of use to help build your business case for funding, and not just for funding from our own pot, but also any funding applications. You should use the information in it. Later on, you apply, an application is passed on to our team, and then we refer back to the GNIP in order to review the applications. You know, we've got the information about what needs to be, what we intend to deliver, and we want to make sure that what we're going to recommend to be delivered and funded meets the requirements. We then put all the information within the 5-year plan and confirm our recommendations. We use the information from the GNIP to make sure that it's very clear reason as to why it's been recommended, and ultimately the funding decision. Now, the funding decision goes all the way to your district cabinets and councils, back to the district authority to make that decision. So I don't know why it hasn't moved on, but doesn't like that slide, obviously. I think one of the main reasons that we are successful is because we have such a clear audit trail. You know, when we get to the point where we go into your cabinets who aren't included in all this other decision making, we have never had a project rejected at that stage. I hope you won't in the future, but I can say factually, we haven't lost a project. We have questions raised, but we can always confirm, explain as to why that particular project is required and does actually deserve the funding. As I say, it's clear, it's transparent, it makes the decision making easy because you can rely upon it and everyone trusts it because it's out there, it's always published. So I have one final slide, and who knows whether you'll see it. I don't think you will. And it's about the digitalisation. So about the reporting of the plan. So the plan is huge. It is difficult to approach. And this is the 8th GNIP that I've actually brought to the Great Norwich Growth Board. And I can say that we're in a much better position now. But 3 years ago, we actually made a giant leap in reporting, and we were one of the first teams to report a plan in a GIS story map. And that was the start of a brand new journey for us. Let's just say it took what the information and it brought it to light. It enabled people to properly understand what it was we were trying to actually report. And because we actually do re-report a lot of information that is already out there, it just makes it easier for the general public, and it makes it easier for members to be able to actually find the information they need. You know, we've got a Power BI dashboard that was built probably 2 years ago, and it reports how much still income comes into each area, and there's a heat map. Now that's information that has always been there, but it was as if it had never been there until we actually presented it in the Power BI dashboard. And this plan the information about Greater Norwich and planning with the information Greater Norwich delivery. We really hope and believe we'll be able to get to the point where you'll be able to click on a map, see an allocated site, and then be able to see how it progresses over time. It doesn't just stop when you actually adopt a local plan, that it actually tells a story. We're not there yet. But the whole industry is moving really quickly, you know, and more teams who are also reporting their own data through GIS means that we are able to draw that information into the GNIP. So there's actually more maps in the GNIP than ever. When we first started, I think there was 1 or 2 others, but now nearly all the other infrastructure groups are actually producing their own information, which we can link to. So it's exciting. We find it very exciting. I know it's not exciting to everybody, but then that's why this is our job. So yeah, I'm basically, if you've got any questions, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Grace and Phil. It is remarkable that we managed to agree and have been doing it for many years now on a range of plans actually that we produce as Greater Norwich, and I think it's just testament to the fact that we sit around the table and everyone behaves like an adult and we concentrate on what we want to achieve and what we've got in common, and you can do an awful lot if you do that, as is evidenced. I think it's tremendous. I was particularly pleased to see all the parks and green spaces projects for Norwich. We need those. There's loads and loads of them, and it's really ambitious. I particularly welcome that. But does anyone else have any comments or questions? Sue?
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to echo that, obviously, but I think the point I would get to is that coming into this fairly new recently in the last couple of years, it was very striking. The first one I came to, I think you demonstrated this new map and the digital process, which actually makes things very much easier to understand and follow. And what I like is being able to go in and see what's happened where. And I think this progression into looking at how that fits with planning as well, those two combined actually justifies to people and explains why we're doing things in a particular way and how they're happening. So I appreciate there's a huge amount of work, but look how it's paying off is what I would say. So thank you very much. And I hope we'll continue to develop it as we go forward. And I, like you, look forward to seeing what you bring us next year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and congratulations on being recognised. I think for the really good work. That's amazing, and that we're being held up as a sort of beacon of how you should do these things. I mean, we all know that we've got local government reorganisation on the cards, and some of the work that's being done around that is actually producing some very interesting demographics for how Norwich and its wider area actually affects the county as a whole, and that the reach of Norwich in terms of travel to work and economic development actually goes right out to the coast. It's not just the 3 district council areas. In fact, if anything, we're underselling ourselves by just restricting ourselves to that. And I wonder whether we ought to considering what's happening, and once we know what the demographics are going to look like for unitary status in Norfolk, whether this plan should be on a wider scale and perhaps include other partners at some point in the future. Sorry, makes your job even bigger, but that's what the data is showing us, that actually the reach of Norwich is much greater because of the very nature of Norfolk being 92% of everybody who lives here actually works in Norfolk and doesn't cross boundaries. So as a result, Norwich has a much bigger impact on its surrounding areas than perhaps you would expect in a different type of county area.
Did you want to respond?
I would just say, give us a boundary and we can deliver the work. You know, it doesn't really matter to us because we're already delivering over multiple authorities. That is our skill set. We are used to working and bringing together different groups and different parties and getting agreement. So I don't know. No one knows what's going to happen in regards to LGR, but once we do know, we will be able to adapt what we do to fit it. So.
Yes, I guess the fundamental point is that LGR has implications for the work we do here and how it's done, and the boundaries will clearly have implications for that. So we're going to have to look at it, aren't we, when we know? Okay, there are no other comments or questions or additions. We've got the 2 recommendations on page 9. The board are recommended to accept the draft GNIP 2025 Appendix 6A, and the board are asked to note that by accepting the GNIP, this will initiate the opening of the corporate projects for the Infrastructure Investment Fund IAF Strategic Pooled SIL. So can we accept those recommendations, please? Thank you. And Daniel, we will contact separately for his electronic approval.
So I'll email him after the meeting to confirm that you've agreed, and then get his in writing before we actually progress with the work. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for the presentation. That brings us to item 7, date of next meeting, 15th of October 2025 here. It'll be here before we know it. I know that for sure. So thank you very much, everybody.